notify the to get started. I call this meeting of the Pahokee City Commission of the City of Pahokee regular commission meeting Tuesday, January 26, 2021 to order at 6:38 p.m. May we please stand for the invocation provided by Vice Mayor Mervin, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, wise God, we come to you today, God, to say thank you. God, we thank you, oh God, for this is another day, God, that you have made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in this day. God, we ask you, oh God, to touch and bless everyone that's here today, God. God, we ask you, oh God, as we venture, oh God, into the business of the city. We ask you, God, to give us wisdom and give us guidance. Guide our thoughts, guide our minds, and most of all, God, guide our hearts. Oh God, that we can do everything, God, that's pleasing within your sight. And God, we give you your name the praise, the honor, and the glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Brown.
Present.
Commissioner Coleman.
Present.
Commissioner Herbert.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. Vice Mayor Mervin.
Here.
City Manager.
Here.
City Attorney. Here. Interim City Clerk here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, staff. And thank each of our listening public for tuning in to participate and take part in our City Commission meeting of Tuesday, January 26, 2021. At this time, City Manager, are there any additions to the minutes agenda?
No, sir.
Thank you. City Commission, having had no addition to our agenda, no deletions, what is your pleasure?
Maybe I make a motion that we will accept the agenda as read. I'm sorry, agenda as no additions, no deletions, approval of agenda minutes.
Thank you. It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett for the adoption of the agenda as presented. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin.
Yes.
Commissioner Everett.
Yes.
Commissioner Boland.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill. Mayor Brown.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Motion passed by unanimous vote. Now we'll move to our citizen comments. City Clerk, at this time, do we have any citizen comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have citizen comments. The first citizen comment is from Ms. Mary Doppero. I would like to know if comments turned in for a special meeting that was canceled are going to be read tonight at the January 26, 2021 meeting. And her comments are attached from last special meeting. Mary Doppero, Lakeside Circle, Pahokee, Florida. Comment for Tuesday, 1/19 to be read tonight. I am rating the city manager as a citizen of Pahokee. All businesses that were mentioned at the previous meeting are all private run. Has nothing to do with city, with the exception of permits, inspections. The gym was under the county with the exception of bleachers, per my knowledge. Please tell me one business the city has brought here in the last 5 years. With the 3ID reports, my rating is a 1, wondering why the city manager is still employed. City clerk, in my opinion, needs to be put back out for RFP. A certified clerk, not one in training, and I am sure there are plenty out there. What happened to Ms. Tijuana? Has she been given a fair chance? She is certified and lives in the area. I don't see the rush. Ms. Polanco is doing a fine job. Best regards, Mary Doppero. Second comment is from Ms. Tavro, and this was sent yesterday. It's for 2997 Lakeside Circle, Pahokee, Florida. Please read in its entirety for the January 26, 2021 meeting. I have sent several emails past, present to all commission, mayor, city manager, city clerk with no response. My present email on 1/24/2021 with pictures attached, I am asking why is it necessary to have the gate into the campground for registered guests closed, locked, and the city purchased card readers for entry. If so, why are they not being utilized for the convenience of registered guests? When will the top road be secured for campground customers? It has been mentioned by the city manager he's hiring a park ranger for all parks, but did not mention the campground, and my suggestion is to include the campground since there is no 24/7 service or security for campers. Have not received any FOIA requests dating back to October 2019, too recent in January 2021. It seems apparent this commission has closed their eyes to what's going on in the city. The city has not brought one business to Pahokee. All that are here are private entities with the exception of pertaining permits, inspections, so how can you in good conscience sit there and not ask why? To condone a city manager's actions with the 3ID reports, do nothing is horrific. I would like to know why we are not interviewing Ms. Tijuana for city clerk position. She's a very qualified local experience with the citizens of Pahokee and lives in the area. What's an update on the restaurant pertaining to final lease, approval from state lands? I don't feel the citizens in Pahokee are divided, as some on the dais keep stating. The citizens do not take lightly to theft of their city tax dollars. By a person working for you, the commission, you do nothing. Communication, transparency is key to have unity with leaders. That is not the case with the dais, with the exception of one and sometimes two commissioners. There will always be times in life when you will step on toes. The next citizen comment is from Sharon. Interim city clerk, I'd like a call at 86363, and she provides her number to read my own comments. Should I not answer, please read them as citizen comments. Thanks. So let me try to reach Ms. Sharon, if that is your desire. Or her desire, actually.
Who do we have on there? Who's on there?
Ms. Sharon?
Yeah.
You you are on speaker on live commission meeting.
Oh, okay. Can everybody hear me?
A little bit
Can you
louder.
speak louder? Can you speak louder, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear.
Yeah, they can hear you.
Oh, hold on just a minute, let me. Well, yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, go ahead, please.
Okay. I would like to say it's appalling that City Manager Chandler Williamson and Mayor Keith Bass don't care for the citizens that pay their salary to even show up and help at the food distribution in our own city. Okay. Furthermore, I'd like to say it's appalling that Chandler and Keith don't even have the compassion to have the city provide water and lunch for the workers. This past Friday, Regina Boland provided the water as she has always done, and Annie Core provided for the lunch for the workers. It's sad to see such a complacency that is shown to us citizens. I've asked Keith and Chandler both on numerous occasions since early last year to please put on the City Hall sign about the food distributions so our citizens could know what is taking place. But as you have noticed, it hasn't been done. It is past time for the commission to do their job and fire the city manager, Chandler Williamson, so our city can prosper and reach its full potential instead of him thinking only of himself and lining his pockets with city money. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. The next comment is from Johnny Gonzalez. Good evening, city officials. I am Johnny Gonzalez of Pahokee. I am running for City Commissioner Group number 2. I have some concerns in reference to the city manager's contract and the hiring of a new city clerk. My concerns are as follows. The city manager has 3 OIG reports against him. He also admitted them to misusing the city credit card for personal use. The city manager has been on the city of Pahokee payroll for 5 years with incomplete projects. How can we afford such incompetence? Happened for so long with no disciplinary action. Please do the right thing and hire someone who actually cares about our city and its citizens. As for the city clerk's open position, correct me if I'm wrong. From my understanding, there are 2 individuals who are interested in the position. And also, from my understanding, only one has been contacted by the city manager for an interview. Why is the city manager so eager to hire the only one that is not a certified city clerk, nor has the experience as the one that was not contacted? The other applicant was our city clerk with experience and is also a certified city clerk and knows her duties. Why hasn't she been contacted and given a fair interview? The next comment is from Katherine Margaret. My name is Katherine Davis Margaret, and I live at 1838 East Main Street, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my comments be read out aloud clearly and verbatim into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 26, 2021. Due to a lack of confidence and trust in our elected body and charter staff, I demand that you publish a copy of the pending contracts for city manager and city clerk, as well as the performance evaluations for public review and discussion prior to voting. Let me repeat that for you, prior to voting. As with previous votes, which were designed to muzzle both citizens and commissioners not in favor with the city manager, the best interest of the city and her citizens was not protected. With regard to the city clerk, I have personally been in touch with a candidate that more than meets the requirements, is highly qualified, and who has advised that she has not been contacted for an interview by the city of Pahokee. All of you know who this is and have discussed it. No salary amounts have been negotiated, and she has indeed applied. I demand that she be interviewed or you be charged with willful discrimination. Carbon copy, Governor Ron DeSantis, and it is confirmed that this message can be read in under 3 minutes as required. The next comment is from a concerned citizen. Looking at the City of Pahokee Commission meeting, it is a disgrace. The commissioners just sit there and fight each other. The same people send in commits every meeting, not for the good of the city. I was in your town a week ago for a family funeral. I rode through and talked to some family members. Some had good things to say, some not so good. But when I took from it, my own observation was that we African Americans are our own worst enemy. I know Pahokee can get better, but your citizens has or want to change. Change will not come from doing the same thing as before. There was a lot of trash on the ground right where people were sitting, let alone eating. Clean up your surroundings. I rode by the hospital side, by the old hospital side, and I was happy to see that it was gone. But all I hear from the community is bad. My family member told me the gym is about to reopen, but again, all I hear about that is bad. I rode by Old City football field. I was really blown away at that. That should have been done, but again, nothing good. The marina was very pretty. I was glad to see a lot of people fishing, enjoying themselves. I got out and talked to a few that I knew. All you see is beer bottles and paper on the ground. I guess you all wait for the city slaves to come and clean behind you, Shane. All I'm saying, if you all work together and come together, it will be better. You got to want change. One last thing, how do you all allow a candidate that do not live in the city limits run for election 4 times? This candidate and her husband is suing the same city that she is trying to represent. Come on, people. Google all the property that they have and go look at it. They are awful. What happened to the old Prince Theater? Nothing. Look at the property on East Main Street. Awful. Any citizen vote for Sarah Perez, you do not want better. Thank you for the time. Ms. Annie Core requested on her email, Dear City Clerk, I am here by requesting under the laws of the state of Florida that you enter the citizen comments I hand delivered to you last week for reading at tonight's meeting. Based on the cancellation of that meeting, those comments should be brought forward along with the agenda items. And her comments all are pretty similar, but a couple of them, or at least 3 of them, have some comments on the bottom. So, like 10 comments. City of Pahokee citizen comments. City comment from city meeting, January 19, 2021. My name is Annie Core, and I live at 8832 El Dorado Drive, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read aloud, clearly and verbatim, into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should be by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted the misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating very poor by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during an interview that she is expected to report to the city manager, who has little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk who has more experience and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those who serve we the citizens of Pahokee. Carbon copy, Governor Ron DeSantis. Note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and it comes in well under 3 minutes. Additional comments, we need better than what we have. Hiring the city clerk that have no experience is a lost cause. We cannot afford her any quarter. The next comment is similar with an additional comment on the bottom, and the comment is from Charlie Bruce, 8860 Seville, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read out loud, clearly and verbatim, into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interest, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of very poor by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during interview that she is expected to report to the city manager, who has little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk, who has more experience, and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those you serve, we, the citizens of Pahokee. Carbon copy, Governor Ron DeSantis. Note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes. Additional comments, I pay taxes, and I am not pleased with the way this city looks. I've been living in Pahokee for over 40 years. This is the worst I have ever seen this city. Charlie Bruce. The next comment is similar with an additional comment, and it's from Crystal Bruce, 8860 Seville Street, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read aloud, clearly and verbatim, into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should, by law, be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of very poor by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during the interview that she is expected to report to the city manager, who has little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk, who has more experience, and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those you serve. We, the citizens of Pahokee. I will copy Governor Ron DeSantis. And note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes. Additional comments is, this is insidious. Why are we, allowing our city to be in the hands of Chandler Williamson when he does not do his job, period? And Christopher signs. The additional comments, they are all similar with no changes. Bon Jones is the next comment. She lives at 315, or he lives at 315 Amaryllis Court, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read out loud, clearly and verbatim, into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of their report by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during interview that she is suspected to report to the city manager, who had little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk who has more experience and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those you serve. We, the citizens of Pahokee. Carbon copied, Governor Ron DeSantis. And note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes. The next comment is from Herbert Jackson, 2. And he lives at 314 Barton Avenue, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read out loud, clearly and verbatim, into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of very poor but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during interview that she is suspected to report to the city manager, who had little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk who has more experience and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those you serve. We, the citizens of Pahokee, carbon copy, Governor Ron DeSantis. And note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes. The next comment is from Robert Connie, 286 Daniel Place, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Law Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read aloud clearly and verbatim into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comment presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission which should by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of very poor by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during an interview that she is suspected to report to the city manager, who has little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk who has more experience and allow her to conduct the upcoming elections. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interest and desires of those you serve. We, the citizens of Pahokee. Carbon copied, Governor Ron DeSantis, and in the note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes. The next comment is from Manuela, Janette, Janette, Jennett, 800 McClure Road, Pahokee, Florida. Under the Sunshine Act of Florida, I request that my agreed upon comments be read out loud clearly and verbatim into the record in its entirety, regardless of its similarity to any other comments presented for this meeting on January 19, 2021. I demand that the elected commission, which should by law be a representative body of the citizens of Pahokee and not special interests, do the following. Do not renew the contract for the city manager who currently has 3 IG reports to the negative, who has admitted to misusing city funds for personal use, who has an overall job performance rating of very poor by all but 3 commissioners, and is suspected to be under investigation for additional wrongdoings. Do not sign a contract with the only city clerk candidate on the record, who admitted during an interview that she is expected to report to the city manager, who had little to no election experience, who could not clearly identify the FOIA, and who was unaware of our charter. These are not the qualifications of a city clerk. You may retain the current acting city clerk who has more experience and allow her to conduct the upcoming election. Govern yourselves honestly, ethically, and in the interests and desires of those you serve, we the citizens of Pahokee. Carbon copy, Governor Ron DeSantis, and the note, this entire comment has been reviewed, recited, and tested, and comes in well under 3 minutes.
City Clerk, how many additional comments we have similar to that?
Similar to this, there's 4 more. And do you want the names of those the citizens? But I have other comments as well.
Okay, City Attorney, I'm calling for your advisement. As mayor, I'm gonna have the city clerk read the names and then state those comments are identical to the previous comments for the record. And the city commission understand their point of view. If that's not sufficient, then advise me and I won't make that determination.
Yes, sir, that will be appropriate under your ability to run a meeting and determine time, place, and manner, type of limitations that you have the authority to judge. And so it would be appropriate if you were to allow the city clerk to state the names of the similar comments, and then the things that are, the comments that are not similar, to have those read into the record for up to the time.
Thank you. City Clerk, please proceed.
The following 4 comments have been submitted by, and they are all similar. Amos Core of 8832 El Dorado Drive, Pahokee, Florida. Ronald Boulding, 108 North Green Star Avenue. William E. Jones, 169 Adams Place, number 52. Carlos Lemons, 2538 Southwest 14 Terrace. And the comments are similar to the last 10 comments.
I believe you can even state identical. I don't think
Identical.
there's no changes other than
They
the
are
person
identical.
name. Thank you.
What was the last lady's name? I didn't hear it.
The last person's name, Carlos Lemons, 2538 Southwest 14 Terrace. There is 3 comments that were submitted for the last meeting. Do you want me to read this into the record? Citizen comment from Bobby Coleman. He submitted this for the meeting of January 19, 2021. Mayor Babb, Mayor of Pahokee, dear Mayor Babb, for the meeting of December 8, 2020, my letter to you began with the following comment. We are living in a time of historical events that I believe will ultimately result in miracles of biblical proportion. Nothing has changed in my beliefs since that letter, except that we are even closer to God, intervening in the affairs of men because of the prayers of his people. On a national, state, and local levels, In the coming days, I expect to see major developments that will show that God still cares about his creation. Buckle your seatbelts and enjoy the ride. Tonight's meeting has been called for the purpose of considering a new contract for the city manager. I was so happy in the last meeting when you made some statements that indicated that you will consider not giving him a new contract. When one considers that he systematically stole thousands of dollars from the citizens over a 3 or 4 year period, that giving him a new contract only makes sense. Giving him a new contract would be like giving him a license to continue robbing the citizens. In my opinion, the commission should give him an acceptable rating tonight and start the process for his immediate termination. With the city elections coming up in a couple of months, this will be a perfect time to fire Chandler Williamson and make a fresh start with a new city manager. Perhaps this time you can find one with enough respect for the citizens. Do not steal from them. City employees deserve a boss that will respect them as well. The state attorney's office has been sitting on the information from the IG's office concerning Mr. Williamson for many months. There is more than enough evidence in those reports to put the city manager away for a long time. Perhaps if the city commission will reach out to them, they will expedite the possible prosecution of his many crimes. Lastly, for a number of months, the suppression of free speech in our country has become a major problem that totally violates our precious Constitution. Thank you for allowing citizens to present our concerns in city meetings. Now it will be nice if you will actually consider our concerns. Thank you for your time, and may God bless Pahokee. Bobby Coleman. April winds. Please read in entirety. April winds, 423 Coconut Road, Pahokee, Florida. I may not be well known, and in this city, it's for a good reason. For a more relevant point, I am writing in to discuss the embarrassment consistently displayed by this city's citizens and some commissioners as well. It's sad that a city manager with proven success has to publicly undergo scrutiny for a raise or adequate pay. Nobody is perfect, but even we as lowly humans expect God's mercy. Many of you have expressed your disagreement with what this man should be paid, but are you forgetting that many of us seek higher education in part because we expect higher salaries? If you chose to be an educator or a janitor, then your pay should reflect the pay for that field. Contrastly, if you decide to extend that education to become a city manager, your pay should reflect that as well. A person's salary should not be based on a popularity contest and what other people decide is suitable, but on performance. If any of us had to go years without a raise, we'll be upset, and rightfully so. It's not fair that anybody has to come to work daily and get bullied by citizens who are too ignorant to seek accurate information and who would rather have repeat failure, because that's what's been happening in a handful of commissioners who cannot even manage their own careers. One commissioner enjoys using big words and playing actor to Dr. MLK Jr., but cannot even maintain consistent employment. And you have the nerve to criticize someone's salary. Don't you have a congregation to apologize for your consistent inadequacies? At least 3 of the commissioners are only on the dais because you are the lesser of the 2 evils opposed to your opponents. Then you have a handful of citizens who attempt to use racist tactics to bully those who do not play into their personal agendas. You all are only a handful of votes. If you think you can do a better job, run for office, city manager, be encouraged. Don't move until God moves you. Those who humble themselves will be exalted, and those who exalt themselves will definitely be humbled. God cannot lie. Continue to operate integrity. Pahokee as a whole will never grow until the people learn that you don't have to like someone to respect their position or what they stand for. Meeting after meeting continues to be a display of ignorance on behalf of the non-objecting mayor who does not interject on the side of right, who can barely be contacted, one commissioner who serves only a race of citizens on Bacon Point, and those who pretend to like her One commissioner who's constantly under investigation for something and is clueless about the city, and another who just prays. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Mr. Smith. This letter is from Sarah Perez, 949
Yes,
East
that's
Main
me.
Street, Pahokee, Florida, 33476. I would like to be called during citizen comments.
The voicemail box of 5612.
Okay. Her comments are as follows. My name is Sarah Perez. I am a candidate to the city for the City Commissioner Group, number 1, in the upcoming election to be held on March 9, 2021. My concern is the hiring of a new city clerk and the urgency in which is being conducted. We have not had a city clerk in the city for the past at least 6 months. It is my understanding that the process for hiring a city clerk is as follows. Once the interested qualified individual applies, it should be turned into the HR. HR makes the application available to the city commissioners to review, interview, and hire. We have had the position advertised twice, and twice the applicants have been interviewed by the city manager, not the commissioners. The first time, no one made it through. The second time, only one made it through to the commissioners for interview. But even though she is not certified, it stated that during her interview that she is expected to report to the city manager, not the commissioners, as a charter employee. And it is my belief that she has little election experience. I am aware that voicing my concerns to the diocese will just be for the sole purpose of going on record. I do not expect any other outcome since for the past at least 6 years, the issues voted upon has been the will of the commissioners with disregard to the will of the citizens of this community. I hope that this process is done in a lawfully and fair manner, and that the upcoming election is not handled in the manner is or was handled in 2018. Thank you, and God bless the city of Pahokee. And that's the end of the comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We don't have any minutes to approve at this time. We don't have any consent agenda items, no ordinances, no resolutions, no public hearings, no proclamations, no presentations, and now we'll have the report of the mayor. On last week at our special meeting, we had several individuals violating our local executive order of no public access to our public meetings. This had a direct effect on the commission and staff's safety, health, and welfare. The recklessness displayed by a few citizens was appalling and represent a threat to our city officials trying to conduct public meetings during this pandemic. A couple months ago, we voted upon a executive order which there was no public access to our public meetings for the health and safety of the public as well as our staff and our commissioners. On last meeting, we had at least 4 individuals who came into our chamber: Sharon, Coleman, Sarah Perez, Trista Bruce, and Annie Core. In violation of that order was put in place not only to protect the commission and staff, but also to protect the public. There are several, matter of fact, there are many city commissions that don't require or don't allow at this time public access to public meetings. And it's only for one reason and one reason only. It's for the public safety. And I'll ask our citizen to please adhere to that policy. It will be enforced. Those individuals was reported to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and we requested additional security and protection for our own safety. If you can recall, the attack on Washington, our capital, it was a similar attack. There wasn't any violence, but there was a threat that possible violence could occur. That was one of the possibilities and one of the reasons that our meeting was canceled, in addition to not having a quorum at the present time. But as mayor, I would have most likely waited a little while just to see if our other commissioners was going to show up. So I take this very serious, and I hope the public take it very serious. We have public access to our meeting via social media, YouTube, the City of Pahokee TV, that the public will be able to know and see whatever the commission is doing and the way we conduct our business. Is very, very important that we adhere to that. We talk about this community not being divided. Every one of former President Trump's supporters say the same thing. The community, the city, the country is not divided. It's not a racial issue. I'm not saying every issue, every concern is on a racial line, but this community is divided. Our city is divided. Commissioners are attacked daily. Our city staff are attacked daily. I heard residents say this is the worst condition and the worst city that they have experienced in the last decade, 20 years. As mayor, I don't see that. And it's not because I'm the mayor. It's because the city has made significant improvement and significant progress and significant strive to be a better city. But we need all our residents, along with our city commission, along with our city staff, to work together to unite this community to move forward before it would ever move forward. So I just ask everyone, and I ask for patience before the process of the city manager is being conducted in an open forum. There are no hidden agendas. There are no favoritism. Just an open forum and an open dialogue, which is required by law, that the public have access to that. And we have given you that by our live streaming of our meeting. We talk about citizens who are running for public office for second consecutive time that don't live in the city of Pahokee. That determination is done by the election supervisor. But this is a small town. We all know who lives and do not live in Pahokee. And those same critical supporters of this individuals is one of the major critical opponents of this commission. But we ask for honesty and integrity. We talk about the city clerk. We do have one that actually lived in Pahokee that didn't complete an application on neither of the times that the application process was open. We had no obligation to reach out to that individual, but we did. This commission even requested the city manager to do that. But if the person don't put in an application, we have no obligation. Again, we did that because the person was local and because the person was certified. Several have mentioned the fact that we shouldn't hire a non-certified city clerk. But I would like to inform you that the majority of our city clerks that we have hired in the last 20 years in the city of Pahokee, I don't believe one at the time was a certified clerk. They all went through the process of being certified. That don't mean the individual is incapable of doing the job. It just means they need some continuing education units, some conferences to attend, some workshops, and that's how they get their certification. That's just for clarification. But again, we welcome all person who's interested in this city clerk position to apply if that's their desire. Our meeting is short tonight in the sense that we only have 2 items on our agenda, official items that we need to address is the city manager contract and the city clerk. And I'm going to end my report on that. I'll now move to our city manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Good evening, citizens. Thanks for joining us tonight. Mayor, couldn't have said it better, so I'll save most of my conversations. And you're all right. This city is much better off in the last 3.5, 4 years than it has been in the last 20. And if you don't know that, you haven't been paying attention. And I'm not a politician, but I see with my eyes and I hear with my ears, and I see the change that's made in this city. If those individuals that don't see that, I welcome them to stop by my office, and I will give them a personal tour of the city of Pahokee, then and now, at any time. I hope that we can continue to move this city forward. We've had some great progress. Are we where we should be? Of course not. Took us 30-some years to get where we were 5 years ago. So, but we can rapidly change this city if we focus on what is really important. It's certainly not tearing folks down continuously. It's certainly not spreading disinformation. And disinformation is information that you utilize that you know is incorrect to hurt others, or to hurt a process, or to hurt a community. That's disinformation. I provided that to one of the citizens that provided a comment tonight, and I welcomed that individual into City Hall so I can be very transparent. Never showed up. So anyone that has information that we're not doing something correct, again, we have an open door policy in City Hall, and nothing's worse than utilizing misinformation to create disinformation, to create a particular propagated stance, be it political, personal readings, I don't know. My focus is to, one, bring to you in the next 2 weeks, the winning bid for Barfield Highway, a highway that has not been repaired in 30 years. Will start reconstruction hopefully by the first week in March. That's a $4.5 million award given to the city of Pahokee. Our gymnasium, which has been closed for about 12, 13 years, if you have not received Mayor Commission the invitation and RSVP for ribbon cutting on February 16th, you probably have it in the morning. That was about $3 million. And just to correct some of the information that we heard tonight, that was a partnership with Palm Beach County. They didn't just wake up one day and throw $3 million at us. It takes a lot of partnering and communication and more partnerships and more communication. I spent many, many months going back and forth with Palm Beach County on what this gymnasium should look like and be for this community. But we appreciate Palm Beach County. They're a great partner. Melissa McKinley, her office, Virginia Baker, the Palm Beach County Administrator, Jonathan Brown, all of that staff, they are great partners here for the city of Pahokee. So I just want to, just clarify that about those projects. East Lake Village is a project that we're in the end of completing a scope of work. Hopefully we can get a bid out here in the next couple of weeks, and we can get that project started, in the latter parts of March going into April. That's very important because that was part of the large haul of money we got in 2017. So we need to get that project started. In addition to that, scope of work is being developed for the old structures at Commissioners Park. Small project, but we think we can bring that project online fairly quickly versus the demolition of the hospital and the water plant. Those are big structures, but this is an $80,000 project, and we're hoping that we can quickly get the scope of work from the engineer for that. In December, I gave you an end of the year report, and I left something out. And I left out the $900,000, essentially $1 million that we were awarded for McClure Road. The planning for McClure Road will begin this summer. We can't begin before then based on our prerequisites that FDOT provides. That's a $1 million project. And if you've ridden on McClure Road, it's just like Barfield Highway. We were awarded that money, I think, in October of 2020 through our SCOP grant application. So I'm proud of what we did in 2020 and what we've done here. And I think the focus needs to be on how we work together, learn from our mistakes. I know I have, certainly, and how to, eliminate mistakes and be better collectively, be better as a leader in this city. Listening to a lot of that, it's a lot of displaced information, and it can run rampant and it can take control of your community and destroy it. So those who are listening, I hope that you take an opportunity to really find out the right information. Someone is saying that if they're provided an opportunity to be up on this dais, that they'll ensure that we get all our incomplete projects completed. Mayor, Commission, community, we don't have any incomplete project in Pahokee. We do not have any incomplete projects in Pahokee. We have projects that are on the way that I just mentioned. We have no incomplete projects in Pahokee, to my knowledge. So for the individuals that are spreading that disinformation, I will provide you any information you need to clarify your misstatements, because it's misstatements. And it does not help us externally. What we miss in this city is we're watching ourselves, but the external audience is also watching us. And those are investors, folks who want to come in and make this city better. That scares them away. And so I implore the community to let's work together. Let's get the right information to promote this city positively. Let's get the right information to promote each other positively. And so if we can do that, I think these projects that I just mentioned, we can get everybody's support for them. And I'm excited about these projects, and the community should be excited about these projects because these are significant projects in the city of Pahokee. Barfield Highway, we will schedule a public Zoom meeting for all of the residents in that corridor, probably the latter parts of February, to explain what the detours will look like and the concepts of what that street will entail. We have a lot of intrusions into beyond our right-of-ways, into possibly the driveways of some of these entrances to residents. So we need to explain that in detail to the residents of that corridor and to the general public, so they can understand that eventually that street, parts of it will be closed off as we do the construction. But again, we'll bring, hopefully, once the contract is created and is vetted properly legally, and we can bring your contract within the next 2 weeks. We did reopen bids and select yesterday, and so we do have a winning bidder for that project. So I just want the commission to know that. I know it's been a long time coming, but we're at the beginning stages of the reconstruction of Barfield Highway. We hired a park ranger for the city of Pahokee, and the park ranger is for all parks, all marina areas, including the campground. We will have someone, attending to our parks throughout the day. We also will have someone who will work throughout the weekend at the marina office. They will also have an after-hours cell phone. So if candidates, when residents come in after hours, after 6 or late at night, they can call that number. Someone will be available to check them in. Someone will be available to check them in even on Sundays as well. So we know that was a gap in some of our services at the marina, but we were able to close that gap by bringing in a park ranger, and they'll have multiple obligations, from routes on the parks to closing the gates, to ensuring that we have compliance in the campground, to serving our campground renters that are coming in on the weekends. So we're excited to to bring someone aboard that could help us out in that area. Mayor, Commission, that's my report for tonight.
Question, City Manager, on the entrance gate at the marina. It's been closed now for close to a year. Why is that, and when will it be operable?
Which
where the entry gate where you go directly to the marina campground side?
It operates. There's nothing wrong with it. Disinformation. We have remote controls. You hit a button, it opens. I don't know where that came from.
Let me clearly understand this. Campers that's on the marina, they have access to that entry. They can they got some type of button they hit and they can go through.
No, we actually hit the button for campers. And what was happening is, for a long time, as you know, our cameras were not working. We finally got our cameras up and working last week after almost a year. There's still 1 or 2 cameras not working, and those cameras are seen in the Dockmaster house, which is where the park ranger will be housed when they're not on routes. You also can see the cameras from the administrative office where you check in at. So we see all activity. When a camper comes in, of course, they have to stop at the main office first, and they have to get their lot and all the other additional information. So they know when that RV leaves that particular area of the office, that they have to hit the button to open the gate remotely, which they can do from the office. However, we also took the step to get almost about, I think, 60 remotes that would temporarily be given to RVs that come in. So they'll be given a hand remote to rent out and give back to us once they leave. And that hand remote is just identical to the one that we have, and it opens the gate. So what happened was, we didn't get the batteries to those remotes, and we have to come back and reprogram those. But we do have access. And once all those remotes are programmed, then all of the campers will have an individual remote that they keep with them to go in and out in that area. And when they check out, they have to turn it back in. If they don't, then they'll charge like a $25 fee, and then we deprogram that remote. But for clarity, the remotes have not been programmed as of yet, but they do have access. We just have to do it ourselves as they come and go. And because that's a one-way in street, that's not a two-way street. People think it's two-way, it's not. It's one way to the campground. So the only traffic that should be going that way is coming from the office, which is visible by cameras if you go that direction when staff is there. Problem we had was, we didn't have full-time staff on the weekends. and that's been a challenge for us. Now that we have that, we can ensure that we don't have those issues that I think I saw in the email, that there was, no one attending the gate because we didn't have staff fully working throughout the weekend. That would change. It actually changed this morning when the person started.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Whose budget is this park ranger's salary coming out of?
It's in Parks and Recreation. We always had additional positions in Parks and Recreation. It's not a new position that needs additional funding. It's a position in Parks and Recs that's always been not filled.
Mm-hmm. And what's the update on the lease for the restaurant?
Back in November, I believe, the state wanted another survey of the marina, and we thought they wanted the entire survey, but they only wanted the survey of just the restaurant tiki bar area that we were subleasing. So when I called out for surveyors to get it done, they were backed up by at least 2 months. Finally got the survey done. The state now has a survey, and they're now preparing an agenda for the governor and cabinet. So it took about 2 months, but the survey got done. I don't know if they'll put us on the February, I think, 4th agenda or the one at the end of the month of February, but they'll let me know by the end of this week if they can get all the documentation on their end completed and prepared. That's it for me, Mayor. One more thing, the February 16th grand reopening, that will be a social distancing grand reopening program that we're putting together. So we'll get additional information, but again, you should get your RSVPs by 12 noon tomorrow if you not have already checked your email. Thank you.
Is it open to the public, or that's on a first come, first served basis, or only
It's
those
only
who
to
bid
those, to that
reserved?
particular RSVPs. I mean, we got a long list, so we'll social distance everyone there. But it'll be, county officials, city officials, the contractors, of course, this body, local residents, Mr. Rose himself and family members, and the public relations staff is putting all that together.
Great. Thank you, City Manager. City Attorney, any report?
No, sir, no report.
Thank you, ma'am. We don't have any old business on the agenda. Oh, we do, I'm sorry. The City Manager contract, we actually have two items on as old business. We have a copy of the City Manager proposed contract. I think this is pretty similar to the one we had started a couple months back, looking at and making our recommendation for changes or modifications. As a mayor, to be honest, it's up to the majority of the city commission what their desires to be, even in changes when we look at a particular item. One commission could disagree. If we had 5 here, 2 could disagree, and still that particular line item would pass if a majority decide they want to keep that in there. I would like for this contract, to be honest, and it's just my preference, to be a basic contract with the salary of the city manager. And my main concern is the servant pay in the event that the city manager is somewhat somehow terminated for cause. Another area would be the vacation and sick leave. I'm just kind of highlighting just really quickly my concerns, sick leave and vacation leave. I'm reviewing several contracts online of various city managers, and a lot of the things that's in here are similar to some, is different on some. I was looking at one particular one for Cocoa Beach, where their city manager had a cap. We had indicated that it was our desire to cap the city manager rollover vacation time, which most city does. Our regular employees have a cap on the number of vacation hours that they can occur, that they would be paid for if they left or separated from employment from the city. That's something I think we really need to look at and decide what that cap would be. I think when we last discussed it, we had asked the city manager to begin taking time off so he can reduce his balance, because at some point he would end up losing it if we continue with the train of thought that that's what we wanted to occur. Even the county commission, the county administrator, Ms. Baker, has a cap on her vacation time that she's paid in the event that she's separated from the city. There was a former county administrator that caused a large payout when he left or separated from the county, and after that time, across the board, there was cap put on employees' amount of time they could carry over. I know the post office have a similar policy. I don't know of many policies, and there may be some out there who pays the city manager 100% of his sick leave on separation. The county have a system where they have tier payments. If you have worked for up to 5 years, I believe you get 25% of your sick. If you work from 5 to 10 years, above 5 years, you get, say, 50% and 75% on that manner. That's something I think we definitely need to look at. But that's just a quick observation. I'm asking the city commission their design going over this contract. What we can do is, I think my suggestion is to have our city attorney read the contract and each line item in there when they're dealing with separation, termination, salary, that we stop on that and make sure we're in agreement with it. I don't think we're going to get through with this contract today, but the process should start, and it should start every meeting until we're done with this particular contract. So before we go through this process, I just want to briefly hear from the city commission and on their thoughts about the contract and how they feel we should handle going through the line items on there as far as agreeing to modify, delete. And there's going to be a recommendation. Of course, the contract is written in such a manner where it should be mutually agreed upon by the commission and the city manager. If that's failed, the only other option, I believe, would be to continue with the current contract or to terminate the contract altogether and separate ourselves from this contract. So those are just options that we need to be weighing and thinking about as we begin to try to come to a mutual agreed upon contract for the city and the city manager. And I'm going to start with Vice Mayor Mervin, just to give you some of your thoughts before we begin to proceed.
Well, first of all, my question is, if we're looking to change the contract, I guess I'd ask the city attorney, if we're looking to change the current contract, or can we change the current contract, or should we, I know you can, I guess you can amend some in the contract, or should we, as for like I said, they're talking about the pay. I agree with the capping, because I think there should be a cap on whether it be vacation time or sick time, and I think you shouldn't be so many, how many that can roll over from year to year. But I guess I'm kind of confused on the contract, as in this contract, if you change it, should the contract, to me, be dissolved if you're going to change the contract and then just negotiate a new contract? If you're not gonna meet, if you're not gonna keep it as is. You see what I'm saying? Like, if we're gonna change the contract altogether, here, the time, what he occurred or whatever, do you pay out of this contract, in other words, dissolve this contract, and we negotiate a new contract with what we want in the contract?
Through the mayor, vice mayor, you all can do anything both parties agree to. And so if Mr. Williamson is in agreement that, this contract be dissolved in the commission, that's what the commission wants. You can certainly dissolve the contract, agree that, when you're dissolving the contract contingent upon, negotiation of a different contract. There's some things in your charter or the code of ordinances that are triggered though. So at any time that you don't have a manager, your laws state that you will, and I'll have to find the exact language, that I guess you could have an interim, so that even the name, I guess, could possibly change unless you have, something that designates somebody as your city manager. So if he's no longer the city manager under the charter, then he would be in some kind of an interim position. Okay. And let me see if I can find the language for you. But in short, we can structure almost anything. So whatever both parties agree to, we can structure language around it that will meet your intent.
So we can put an amendment, because
You can
to
amend-
the current contract.
Yes, ma'am, you can amend the contract. And I think you all, the current contract that you have, you can absolutely amend it. And if the issues are issues of the time, I think you want to, look at that. If that seems to be an issue of the sick leave and vacation leave under Section 9 of the current contract, then those are areas you want to look at. If the issue seems to be, certainly I think we need to make it consistent with the process and have some reference to the charter process, because you don't want to have a legal issue later with respect to that. So you do need to make this contingent upon, following any and all, references that are made within the charter regarding removal. And there's a section 3-03 in your charter that we talked about previously. And there was some discussion previously about salary, which is Section 5, so I guess you want to talk about that. So this is, it's a simple contract. We can go through it. You can mark it up in any way, and his attorney's on the phone, and so Mr. Williamson has access to legal advice. So if you all, if both parties agree, you can amend the contract. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so another question then. Say, for example, the hours that they gave that he have now. If we amended the contract from what we want capped now,
Yes,
he keeps those what's occurred now? You see what I'm saying? Okay, he got whatever, I think Human Resource gave us those hours. Those hours that she gave that he has on the books now.
You could even agree to that the hours will be capped at blank amount.
But you can't take them away, you can't.
You can agree that you are going to cap the hours. You can agree to anything both sides agree to. Yes, ma'am, you can do that. So if Mr. Williamson is saying, I will, in order to have a contract, I will settle for X amount of hours, and I agree to that, then that's something that both parties agree to, and you can make that change in the contract, in the current contract as an amendment.
Okay.
Commissioner Everett, any thought before we get into the nitty-gritty of the contract?
Yes, sir. I would echo one of the things that you stated earlier, but in addition to, one of the things that I observed in this contract is that there is an absence of progressive discipline. It's either keep or terminate. And we had several things that we discussed. We talked about in our previous meeting, one being something we may not want to talk about because of the light that has been shined on our city, but it's something that needs to be dealt with because what we said, you know, we said that we were waiting on results from the IG, and depending upon the results of the IG, we would then make a decision. It has been quite some time, and we have not heard. So one of the issues that I have with the contract as it currently exists, as it currently is, there's no ground, no room in there for progressive discipline. Discipline, just like criticism, should be constructive, and the intent should be to make persons better, unlike the criticisms that we heard tonight via some of the citizens' comments that I care not to even respond to, but discipline should be constructive. And that's something that we need to deal with in conjunction with reviewing this contract. So that's one of the things that I have. Another issue that I have is the time accrued. A lot of people calling for fire the city manager, you know. And one of the statements that I've always made is that even with superintendents or people in positions, executive positions, we were given around total of hours, but it was not a complete report that it reflect dollar amount. You tell me, you know, he has X amount of hours, I don't know how that translates into dollars. So in my opinion, to me, that's still an incomplete report because we don't know what that means in terms of money. And I think many variables have to need to be taken in consideration when we rush to judgment and rush to say, let's do something. And I'm just speaking to that as an example when, you know, there's an amount of hours that have been accrued, but we don't know how that translates into dollars and cents. So that's one of my concerns along with progressive discipline. Because the fact is, we have an IG report. The fact is, there were charges made. Now, you know, we're not, you know, and there's nothing in this contract that if there are persons who say, well, I'm not in agreement with termination, but there's nothing else in this contract to say I could suspend 2 weeks without pay or 2 weeks with pay, 30 days with pay, 30 days without. There's nothing else in there other than you want to keep. And in keeping, there's no grounds for discipline. Nobody's saying not to show mercy, but when my boss calls me on a matter, it's a matter of, you know, hey, did you come in late a certain amount of time? They may show me mercy, but in the same respect, there's a consequence for that action. So that was one of my concerns among a few.
Let's see if the attorney have any thought on that. As far as disciplinary, progressive disciplinary action, say, for instance, suspension without pay, does our charter address that in any manner? Our personnel policy does, or?
Well, in terms of the first issue, the progressive discipline issue, you generally wouldn't see something like that in a contract like this, just based on the role that he plays for the city. But in terms of the mayor's question about suspension, there is some language in this section 3.03 under removal, which actually one of the options is to preliminary resolution may also
And can you state that last part again?
If you were to suspend, I guess the mayor's question was about suspension, and the only thing that I'm aware of that speaks to that issue is in that same removal section, which a part of that removal could be a suspension without pay. If you have that preliminary resolution that's filed, and then, but that starts the removal process. Now, obviously, you could abandon that through the process, but that goes back to what the mayor was saying earlier. I mean, you have your options are to you can amend the contract, which is what the vice mayor was saying, possibly, or you could move in the direction of removal. So that's what you have. You don't really, there's no progressive anything. In fact, you wouldn't even want to do that because it would leave it so murky that, you could never really have a clean way
I guess, for, lack of a better way of saying it, because from conversation that you and I had, I thought I left the conversation with the understanding that there were basically two things to do. Either keep or terminate. Because if you do the resolution, and I'm just saying this just outside of the city manager that we currently have. At the present, either you keep and say, hey, that was $5,000, using that as an example, or the other option is to terminate. And to keep without any form of discipline.
Well, you wouldn't so much through the mayor. You wouldn't so much have the way that you deal with that is through an evaluation process. So if you were doing evaluations, you would be having that, having some criteria that will evaluate how effective your manager is doing, and that might weigh into whether that manager gets a bonus or raise or whatever. So that's how that, it's not, and if it was so egregious, then, you might terminate. But if it wasn't so egregious, then you could deal with it through an evaluation process where you rate the manager based on the criteria that you've established to rate the manager.
Excuse me, but when you said that the preliminary resolution may also suspend the charter officer from duty immediately, it says with pay, not without.
Okay, with pay.
Yeah. And I'm in agreement with Benny. I don't, or Commissioner Everett, I don't understand why, if you have a problem with someone, you would wait a full year, because we're only supposed to do that evaluation between certain times of the year. Say you had a problem 30 days after you did that evaluation, a problem comes up, and then you're saying that there's no way to discipline or do anything until the next evaluation. Well, what kind of company would run like that?
I'm not saying there's no way to do anything. Obviously, you would have, you would always be in a state of, I guess, having the manager dingling if that would. That's just not how cities operate generally. And while you could censor, you could.
But isn't that what he just asked you?
Contract is what it is. I mean, we could probably try to find something that, addresses what the commissioner is saying. Maybe, but both parties would have to agree, whether it's losing money, you don't get paid, or you lose this benefit, or you lose that. It's just not something that's generally seen in these kind of contracts. But I guess you could structure something as long as the manager agreed. If you had two willing parties and you agree that there's going to be certain things that would happen outside of removal, you could agree to that. I can write almost anything. So if you all say it and Chandler agrees to it, and it's consistent with your charter, we can write it. That's not an issue. So if that's something that this commission wanted to see, some type of, he gets not paid, or he gets he loses his card allowed, or whatever, you know, we can write anything. So we just have to, at the end of it all, you just have to agree that that's what you're doing.
Okay.
Well,
It-
I know my attorney's on the phone, but I know, you know, we have a current contract. And if we are seeking to give the city manager a new contract with different elements, you know, we have to first address the current contract. If we want to, you know, cancel that contract, and there's going to be different terms in the new contract, we have to address what's already current first, and then move forward to a new contract. That's the way I see it. We can talk about any type of language we want to put in that new contract, but we have to first address the standing contract that's here, that's written and approved in 2017. But I'm certainly open to, as we move forward, Mayor, Commission, to talk about all the language and safeguards that Commissioner Everett is I think, mentioning, that we can put in a new contract. It wouldn't be objecting to that. It have to be something that's clear and transparent and fair. So that's where I am tonight. I know we're not going to resolve all this tonight, but we certainly want to get to a place where we're all comfortable with what we want to see in a city manager's contract. So that's all I have to say. I know Mrs. Smith is on the phone. I don't know if he wants to say a couple of words, but that's what I have to say.
Good evening, board members. My name is Corey Smith. I'm an attorney here in Palm Beach County. I'm standing in and assisting Mr. DeGraffenreich right. He's having an issue. But I spoke to Ms. Weeks briefly, and I've been in contact with your manager, Mr. Williamson, and just listening to some of the comments, I think, we want to work in the spirit of cooperation. I believe that all parties want to move forward. And I think it's incumbent that we get these terms hashed out and figured out so that, so that we can put this process behind us and get the business of the city of Pahokee moving forward. That said, as Ms. Weeks has advised you, we can come up with any language that you want to. It's just, depending on what the parties want to do. I would caution against, and I couldn't hear everything she said when she was addressing the issue of progressive discipline, but I thought I heard her say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Weeks, that that's not something that generally is done in the city manager quote unquote industry. It's not an industry standard. That language comes out of quite honestly, that comes out of the education arena. Where you talk about teacher discipline, administrative discipline, that kind of thing. And that could likely be, and most likely will be a very strong sticking point if that's something that's going to be pursued here in these negotiations. Just want to put that out there. But, the contract as submitted, the proposed new contract, because I see the 2017 contract and I see the proposed contract. Most of the terms look good. I understand that there's some wiggle room that we all are going to have to, hash out with respect to benefits and sick time paid out and that kind of thing. That's not a problem. I don't think Mr. Williamson has an issue with that. But he is eager to conclude this process and put it behind him. And he just told you that, basically that was the advice that I gave him as well with respect to, we're going to move forward in a totally different manner. Let's go ahead and end out the contract that's in place, deal with that from a financial standpoint with respect to what's owed and what's going to be paid out, and then move forward on the new contract. And we're going to amend the contract and add in provisions that address the council's or the commissioner's stated concerns with respect to I didn't have my glasses on. With respect to the caps and sick and the rollover and sick pay, and those seem to be the real sticking points. So we can negotiate that out, and I don't think we'll have a problem with that. So I just kind of wanted to poke my head in and let you all know I'm here and that we're looking to move in a spirit of cooperation.
Oh,
Thank you.
just one question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, and I want to direct this to Attorney Weeks. We, by majority vote, stated that we would, and I know we need to deal with the existing contract, and I just want clarity. By majority vote, and we stated that we would wait for a report from the Attorney General's office.
No, that's incorrect. We didn't vote for based on contract conversation.
No, I didn't say,
That was
I didn't say contract.
we're
I didn't
mixing
say contract, I
conversations.
say in dealing, I know we got to deal with the existing contract. It was if it wasn't a vote, it was a majority consensus. And Mayor, you said it our last meeting, that we would wait until the Attorney General handed down a decision before we move forward with what we would do in light of the third IG report.
But we were
Is
talking
that not
disciplinary.
correct?
We were talking disciplinary action,
Yeah.
not contract.
I didn't say, what I said, I know we need to deal with the contract first. That's what I prefaced my statement by saying. And then I attempted to go on to say that whether it was by vote or general consensus, we agreed to wait until the Attorney General handed down a decision, if he or she decided to hand down a decision, before we address that third IG report. And when we brought up the conversation again about this contract, Mr. Mayor, you stated in your statement that that was something that we were going to be talking about along with this contract, because we made a statement to the public that we would, in fact, address what we said we would address after the Attorney General handed down a decision.
Right.
And so my concern is, the way the contract reads, there's nothing to do other than to say move forward or terminate.
Not exactly, because, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just a city manager trying to get through this process. But first of all, there are no charges. Let's take that out of our conversation. The IG sent a report to the state attorney for review. That's it. So let's stop saying there are charges. Because
I didn't say charges.
You said earlier. So let's stop that.
I
Please
didn't
stop
say
that.
charges.
Because that's
I
spreading
said,
like wildfire.
no, but don't miss my words. I didn't
Okay,
say
I
charges.
understand. Well,
I said
they
that
said-
when
they
the
said-
Attorney General hands down a decision. I didn't say
Okay.
charges.
Well, they sent that for a review. Still reviewing it. Probably going to review it for a while, but from a contract perspective, which is separate, we got something on the table we have to deal with. So that's just my perspective of what I'm saying here, because we can't keep mixing these conversations. Oh, let's wait to see if something comes from the state attorney's office. Well, okay, but right now we got a contract that hasn't been done in 4 years.
Okay.
So that's just what I'm saying. There are no charges here. There's a review that occurred.
We're going to try to proceed as best we can, but I just want to clarify what I was really pointing out to, or trying to point out at the last meeting that we had the discussion was consensually the majority did agree that we should wait to the outcome of the state attorney's office and the ethics committee. However, I also mentioned the fact we have to put a time frame on that, or should have a time frame, in the event that those reports don't come back to us. We still are obligated to make a decision. That was the preference of the majority, to wait, because their decision would be based on that outcome. but you don't want to have a non-ending time frame for that. So what I'm trying to say, or what I tried to say was, at some point, Commission, we need to make a decision on the disciplinary action, whether it's suspension, whether it's whatever, termination. At some point, it's our obligation to make that decision. We can't wait indefinitely on the state attorney's office or the ethics committee, because those determination may never come. We don't know unless we get a letter saying there are not going to be any charges, there are not going to be any ethic violations or whatever you may be looking for. Because I look at this situation as, if it was a regular employee, regardless of whether they was charged or not, did what is being cited in the IG report is enough to terminate a regular employee. If you feel a regular employee would be terminated based on those actions, then the city manager should be terminated. If you feel that a regular employee would have been maybe progressively disciplined by a suspension or some other means of disciplinary action, then that's what you need to consider. But at some point, we do need to make that decision. But we'll deal with this contract because it's before us and try to get through it as best we can. I think the best way to do it is, again, what I tried to do at our last previous discussion of the contract, start going through some of these items. And if this commission agreed by a majority that this needs to be in their contract, I know the total contract needs to be mutually agreed upon, but if the manager don't agree with it, then we need to make a decision whether we need to modify it with what the manager's looking for, or we terminate the contract. This is what we're proposing. You can either agree to it or disagree to it, but this is what we're offering.
Mr. Mayor, can I voice my concerns about this before we move forward? I know the other two did. I agree with the other commissioners, and it looks to me like from the letter that we got from Ms. Ramsey that he has 17.9 weeks, which is 717 hours of vacation, and 571 hours of sick, which is 14.275 weeks. So we have a total of, I don't know, about 30 some weeks, 31, 32 weeks. Do we have I'm with Commissioner Everett, 32 weeks is over half a year. Do we know what this is going to cost us?
If it's closer to half a year, that means that will be a half a year of his salary.
Okay, so would we take 118 divided by 52 and then multiply it times these weeks? Okay, so then I did that. That's $72,300, give or take, right now.
Ballpark, right.
Right. So I don't know if there's a possibility of, is every place I ever worked, if you didn't use it, you lose it. If you don't use your sick days by such and such a date, if you don't take your vacation by such and such a date, you lose it. It doesn't just keep rolling up so that somebody ends up owing you thousands and thousands of dollars.
Most places though gave you a cap, so you would have.
Right, but apparently we haven't capped anything, and that's one of the concerns, is that this thing just keeps growing on us.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
And Commissioner Boland, so the section is section 9, and that's really what you all were talking about. Section 9A and B. So you had a lump sum, 140 hours per year of vacation time that happens every year, automatically. And then you have a lump sum, 120 hours of sick leave that's been accruing since April 6th of those are the areas that you're really dealing with, those two areas. And so if the manager were to agree to something different, you could do something different. If the manager were to agree to, you know, this is the time you can have that conversation with them. Maybe people
Okay.
will agree to change those provisions.
Let's do that one second. Let's get to the main one, is the salary. I think in this new contract, he's proposing to remain at 118.
Okay.
So,
Am I wrong or right?
So in the new one, and keep in mind that what we're calling the new contract, this is what Mr. Williamson wants, right? So these are Mr. Williamson's wishes.
Okay.
This, you could, if you wanted to, you could continue to look at the contract you have right now and then work from that contract if you wanted to be simple.
Okay.
One of the things you said is that you wanted it to be simple. If you
Right.
want that, this one is not as simple.
Okay.
It has more stuff in it. So if you looked at the.
Which one's better
contract-
for the commission?
I'm sorry?
Which one's better for us?
I would think the current one, the one that's actually in effect at this particular time.
I'm asking the city attorney,
Well, I mean,
please.
I think based on the kind of things that you want to see, it might be the current one, but, some of the highlights of the newer one would be, I guess, one of the biggest things in the newer one would be how the manager is terminated, requiring, a 2/3 vote to terminate him as opposed to a majority. That's like one of the bigger things. A lot of other things track, you know, the current contract is just a little bit more language, and the new contract references the charter, so that you have to be able to consistent with the charter, whereas the current contract doesn't reference that. So I would recommend that if you all agree that you're going to amend the current contract, at least you put some language in here that references the charter, so that you don't run afoul of the charter.
Okay, going back to
Okay.
the question though, which one would be probably our best method of moving this forward? Using what he's presenting?
Using the current contract is the easiest way, because that is simpler, and it's something you've been working in and you understand it, and it's just, you know, like there would be a couple of things that I would make different, in this current contract, and specifically the third whereas clause, there's some things in here that, that don't go well for the city, because you can't really understand what it's supposed to mean. So that might be problematic, but other than that, it's simple, there's some things in here you all
Okay.
decide.
All right.
Let's proceed.
Mr. Mayor, are we gonna go over the evaluation or anything before we
Evaluation is
start?
not on the agenda now. We're going to try to get through this contract first.
So we're gonna do his contract without going over his evaluation?
Yeah, I think everybody got a copy, so they have an ideal of what each evaluation was, each commission provided. If we want to do a public evaluation, we can do that at our next commission meeting if that's the desire. We'd have to vote on that and see if we're going to move forward. But the contract is on the agenda tonight. There's nothing on the agenda about evaluation. If during your discussion or any area, if you want to mention something pertaining to the evaluation to address it, you can do it at that time. But we're going to take the current contract. What I'm going to ask you to do, city attorney, is again reading this contract, and we're going to go through these line by line. When I say that, section by section, and decide.
I'm sorry.
Well,
All right, the current contract is the one I'm on, and then the draft is the one that she's referring to. So which one are you
No,
referring
I'm
to?
talking about the one that says Amendment 3. That would be the.
Okay, that's the current one. Okay.
To
All right.
go through. If you wanted to do something quickly, that would be the easiest thing to do.
okay. Let's try to go through that if we can and see how that works.
This guy's trying to say something.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Hi, thank you. Just so I'm correct, you guys want to work off the one that's entitled Amendment Number 3 to the employment agreement. as a baseline, as opposed to the one that's dated 2019. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just so I'm following along. Thank you.
I've reached city attorney, see if you can go with that and see if we need to make any changes as far as the commission is concerned.
Okay, so, she's taking the mic for temporarily. One of the things that I would, just in looking at the city standpoint in terms of, the contract, because I represent the city, I represent
Right.
Mr. Williams that has his own attorney here. But, you would want to look at the third whereas clause, which, just taking it out, because it doesn't really serve a purpose for the city, right? It has some things in here that will be hard to define. I wouldn't want to be arguing about this third whereas clause and what it means when it's not necessary.
Could you read it, please, so we know what you're talking about?
It says, "It is the desire of the city of Pahokee to, one, secure and retain the services of Chandler Williamson," no problem there, "and provide inducement to him to remain in such employment." That's, provide inducement, like the city's supposed to induce him to remain in employment. That's problematic, I think. And assuring the manager's morale and peace of mind with respect to future security. What does that mean, ensuring his morale and peace of mind? And then it says to promote and foster trust between the city commission and the manager. And then to provide just means for terminating the manager's services. So I think that if you just had it is the desire of the city of Pahokee to secure and retain the services of Chandler Williamson, that could be your whereas clause as opposed to the other stuff. And if Mr. Williamson doesn't have a problem with that, I would start there as the first thing, if I were looking at it from the standpoint of the city.
To take out all of that that says we worry about how he is mentally or his well-being, or that is what you're saying?
Well, it doesn't quite say that, but I would just use that very first sentence, basically. It is the desire of the city of Pahokee to secure and retain the services of Chandler Williamson as city manager, and then go on to the next whereas
Okay.
clause.
City Commission, any objection to that language, having the rest removed? It seemed to be an agreement with that, taking that out.
And then the next one, now therefore, you would have some reference, because right now, in the current contract, it says April the 6th of 2015. So you'd have some reference to this amendment in your amended contract, that it's 5/8/2017, that's what you're amending. So going to the next page, the hot spots on this page would be just, and this is not hot, but correcting the April 6th date in section 1 and making it, again, the May 2017 date, and then making that consistent throughout. So little things like where it says term, this contract shall commence on April the 6th, obviously, under section 2, it would be the whatever the date is that the parties agree to, the new contract commencing. And then what
Does that have an ending date, or is that just rolls on?
It currently, it does not, and that's something.
I think we need to add an ending date, don't you?
That's something you all could discuss if you wanted that.
It need to be at
we're
least
in.
no more than a year after the contract commenced.
Right.
I would suggest a year contract there. I'm surprised previous contract didn't have an end date myself.
And it's not always any.
Right.
Because the idea is you would like for your city manager to stay for stability reasons, and you don't want there to be something every year where you're, negotiating the contract. But in this case, maybe that allows for you to evaluate and get whatever you're waiting to get back from wherever you're going to get it back from. So you could do that if he agrees to it. That's certainly something you could do.
Commissioner, you all prefer an end date within a year, or you want a language saying it would remain in effect till it is revised or terminated by
So you
the
could
city
do that if
commission?
you agreed to it. That's just.
What? Who's talking?
It's-
Delayed.
Yeah.
Watching. It's delayed on this end.
My point right now is to try to get through this as much as possible. I'm concerned, but I'm not overly concerned whether the city manager or his attorney agreed to it at this point, because it's gonna be up to the city commission. I'm taking a line that if we can't negotiate a mutual language, then we're gonna offer our contract and say, you know, if we can't agree as two parties, then we're terminating the contract in its
Right, we should go
entirety.
through and ask for everything we want, and then send it over and let them look at it and say
Right,
yes or
he
no
can
to
make,
it.
they can make.
Well,
go-
let me kind of put it in
Uh-huh.
context, because you, remember, you have that charter provision. So
Okay.
you could couch it in terms of if, you know, I hesitate to even say it out loud, but I don't know another way to say it. But you could couch it in terms of if he doesn't agree to it, then you will exercise your option to terminate based upon the reasons that you would have to state under that charter section 3.03. But those are, you would actually have to put the reasons, and the reasons that you had before had to do with the IG report. So, you know, and I don't want to, I hesitate to say that because I don't, you know, I think you should negotiate in good faith. I don't think it should be something where, you know, you putting us in a position as a city to try to say it was kind of duress or something, right? You know what I mean? So I think it ought to be some, if you're going to have the discussions, it ought to be a good faith discussion that you're going to try to reach some kind of a, you know, agreement, and you allow him to come back with his attorney, Mr. Williamson, and they, you know, it ought to be an air of good faith, you know, if you follow me. I don't want you all having a discussion that sounds like you're kind of, either you stay here, because the only way you're going to be able to remove him is through this removal process. It's not like, okay, we'll just terminate the agreement. It doesn't quite work that way per your charter. So you would still have to have a process under your charter where you do this preliminary resolution, and you know, you do all the things that the charter says you have to do. It doesn't mean you can't, you know, not have a city manager in 30, 45 days if that's what you wanted, but I just want you to not mix the two things up. You know,
Right.
Either if you're going to have a good faith discussion, have a good faith discussion about what you'll do, give them an opportunity to review it, and then, you know, don't mix the two things up so it doesn't.
Okay.
And I want to
Can
mention this.
can I get some clarification, because are you saying that if we negotiate this and it doesn't come together, we can't say that we're going to terminate him with cause or without cause, or we have to go through the process no matter what? So whether we terminate this contract or not, we would still have to go through that process?
You would still have to go through a process of removal. If the manager does not walk away voluntarily and say, okay, I quit, or whatever it is, you still have to go through, if you intend to remove him, you have to go through a removal process that's in your charter. So that, yes, you have to have a process for it.
And if we were in that process, could we negotiate this contract in the middle of that or not?
I guess you could, yes, you could. You could, but I'm not saying, I don't think you should mix the two things at all. I think you should have a good faith discussion, and then if that, you know, then you kind of look at next steps. But I would just prefer you all, and I caution you all to,
Okay.
you know, have a discussion that involves the contract and trying to get to a place. Now, you can do some things, like, for instance, you could have some language in a contract that said, if you, let's all agree, if everybody agreed, that if you are found at any point to be charged by the state attorney's office for this contract will be null and void. You know, you could have something like that in a contract. I don't know whether the manager would agree to it, because that's not in his contract now.
Doesn't this one that's the new one, doesn't it have some things like
No,
that
it
in
does
it?
not, it doesn't.
I
No.
thought it did.
No, it doesn't. No. So just looking at in terms of being simple, looking at the Third Amendment one that you have here, I think the next thing would be the term. And if you all are saying that you want the term to be 1 year, then, or longer, whatever it is that you want, then that's what you all have to, should come to consensus
Okay.
with. Because that's what you left off.
It seemed like a big deal, but it's really not, because even if this contract was 5 years and we decide 2 days after signing this agreement that we wanted to terminate the manager, we could start that process. So
You could.
a longer contract, essentially, you're not obligated every year to negotiate and redo it or amend it. You still have that flexibility, but some people are concerned with a long-term contract, but it does benefit the city, I think, in a sense that you have a contract that you don't have to continually, year after year, negotiate if it's a little longer than 1 year. So either way, I'm completely satisfied.
In this new one, it does say, under section 3B, it says, the term for cause shall be deemed to include gross negligence in the handling of city affairs, willful violation of provisions of law, willful disregard of a direct order, demand, or policy of the commission, conduct unbecoming a public city manager, illegal or habitual drug use, arrest, conviction of a felony, conviction of any crime involving moral turpitude or any crime relating to official duties, or a violation of Florida Ethics Code for the purpose of this subsection. If the city manager pleads guilty or nolo contendere, or is found guilty of a felony, he shall be deemed to have been convicted, notwithstanding a suspension of sentence or a withholding of education.
And all of that coming right from the charter too. No?
No, sir. No, sir. And it has to be read in conjunction with like if you're terminating, I think you have to read it in conjunction with the charter. I think it would require a
So
process.
this paragraph you're saying couldn't be put in the new contract because of the charter?
Well, you can put it in subject to, this is what would trigger a preliminary resolution. These are the things that would automatically trigger it, but I think you have to read it in conjunction with. So what I'm saying is we can mix and match the language, but if you wanted to do what the mayor was suggesting, which is streamline it and make it something very simple that you can go through maybe tonight, you would look at this Third Amendment.
Well, simple may not be the best thing for us. I mean, we need to protect ourselves. That's the most important thing, is
Right.
that we protect the city.
Yeah, either way is what I'm saying. If he did any of these things, and like the mayor said earlier, and you all wanted to, a majority of you wanted to put forth a preliminary resolution, then the manager can be gone through whatever these factors are. It doesn't matter whether it's there or not. If it meets any criteria, it wouldn't necessarily have to be this criteria. It could be anything you thought, rose to the standard of something that you thought was unbecoming of a city manager.
Isn't that what it says? Conduct unbecoming a public city manager?
What I'm saying is that could be you wouldn't have to have specific things. It could be in whatever the discretion was. I'm not trying to go back and forth with you. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just asking because I want to be sure I understand.
You can do anything you like, and you can do it for any reason you like, and it doesn't have to be anything specific to this. It could be anything. And so if you wanted to put language in the new contract, you could. I mean, in the current contract, you could. If you wanted to, just
Well, I
leave
thought
it
that
as
was a
is.
good, I thought that was a good paragraph I didn't care for much of this new thing, but I did like that paragraph because it was pretty specific. When it comes to termination, if, like you've explained to Commissioner Everett, we really can't discipline, then we should have some things that start to trigger things. That's my opinion.
To me, I don't have a problem with that language as far as terminating in there. To me, it still mirrors what's in that charter, Mav. feces, mismatched feces, it's there, it's just spelling it out a little for you. But it's basically the same thing that the charter is outlining. It's not.
I think
it's
the
not-
charter's a little broader, and this is a lot more specific.
Still have to go by the
But you
charter.
have to follow your charter.
still go
Your
by the
charter is
charter.
what controls.
But wouldn't this trigger then,
You could write it where that does it, but that's not what this says. That's what I'm trying to
well,
explain.
could we write it so it
You
would
could-
trigger that?
You could write it that way. That's not
Yeah.
what this says right now, but you could if you wanted to, sure.
I think that would be a good thing, so that it gets triggered if things happen. Because if we're not gonna be able to discipline,
Okay.
you know, then
Could
then
we-
you need something that says, okay, there's a problem, and we need to look at it seriously here.
Anybody got any objection to that language, the termination language there that's in there? It's just more specific, it's basically kind of outline what's, to me, I'm not an attorney, but it basically outlines what's in the charter.
And
It
what
just
I-
spell it out more specific.
And what I can do is I can pull this language from here, but in addition to that, tie it to the charter and say that it would trigger 3.03 of the charter. You follow me? Like that would be, and then make it even more specific that it will be triggered and at the following meeting of the city commission, a preliminary resolution shall be brought forward.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So,
That's fine.
all right. Okay, are you waiting for me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're looking for the next section.
Yeah.
We
Go
need
to the
to-
next
Sure,
paragraph.
so what I will do is I will kind of really merge the cause and without cause and make it fit the charter and overlay language that's in the other,
But the other one that says termination without cause, that's the one that had the 4, and I think when we discussed it last time, we said that we don't need 4, we only need 3.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're saying, but what I would do is, I'll bring back some language to you
yeah.
that will,
But
address the.
I'm just pointing out on this,
Now-
on this
now-
other one that it said without cause that we needed 4 members of the commission to do that. And then I think when we discussed it before, we went back to it only takes 3. It only takes 3 to do
yes,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I wasn't.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you don't change it to that.
Right, exactly, I got it.
Yeah.
Was that a general consensus that, if it was without cause, that we went away from a supermajority?
Yes.
I can't remember, because that's
Yeah, I
2 years
do.
ago.
Yeah, the charter dictates
Uh-huh.
the number of
Oh,
commission, which
okay.
is a,
I just,
Yeah,
I know we had a
right,
conversation
right.
about it.
Yeah.
It says 3.
Can I ask, I don't want to take this away with me at the meeting. Take what I want to say with me from this meeting. What was the purpose of us expediting an evaluation?
Because by the contract itself, whether you do a contract or not, the city manager is due an evaluation annually.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm saying expediting that so that we could have a special call meeting that was canceled in 5 minutes. I thought generally people get 15 minutes grace.
That's,
And we're talking about the contract separate and apart from, the evaluation. I
Okay.
was just asking.
okay,
And I didn't want to take that.
yeah,
with me.
part of the request for the evaluation, because on this annual contract, it calls for an annual evaluation, which we had failed to do, and his lawyer cited it also. So we at least wanted to take care of that housekeeping, that we got that evaluation out of the way. Secondly, only fraternities and sororities and social clubs give you a 15-minute grace period for starting a meeting. Most organizations, especially commission meeting, because they are posted that a meeting would start at, say, 6:30. So within a really reasonable time, that meeting must start. If myself as the manager who conduct the meeting, if I can get a call or the clerk can get a call that a commission is running a little late, and if we've had a quorum, it wouldn't have been a problem. A reason to know someone was on their way, we could have waited. But even if I'm not here as the mayor, I expect within 5 minutes, all meetings should start. The vice mayor should run that meeting, or the next line of seniority should run it. But by no means should we not move forward with a meeting. It's just publicized, and they're looking for that meeting to start in a reasonable time. And the city attorney, I know we kind of going down in a different subject, but from your experience in commission meeting that's called for at a certain time, what is the kind of norm that gravel should at least be hit to see if there's a quorum to even conduct a meeting? I know it's all a preference, but you've been in this field for a long time. I mean, what's the norm of the norm?
Sometimes it's mentioned in the rules of procedure, and so it just really depends on the city. I'm not sure, let me look at your rules of procedure. I'm not sure if you address it in 2-26. But it just depends on the city, Mr. Mayor, and you know, I guess the circumstances. In this case, I think you said your issues were different in that you were concerned about safety and those kind of things, which are completely different. So you had other concerns that you saw when you came to the chambers. So.
And maybe, I mean, Commissioner Avery may have a good point. That's something, if it's not in our rules and procedure, maybe we need to include it. And I say maybe 5 minutes, but the commission may decide, just like he pointed out, we need to at least wait at least 15 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I just said it in my statement. I didn't, my main concern was, you know, and, you know, I guess what my main concern is, we're doing a contract separate of, I guess, I would think that you would have both, you know, documents of your contract and your eval and speak to some of those things that were mentioned in the evaluation to help guide the contract discussions.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
That
because
was my thing, and also, you know, the record would like the record to reflect there's been times we were not rushed to call off a meeting because it operated 5 minutes beyond 6 o'clock. Because I was in the parking lot after you came out, 6:05.
Yeah, just-
And got there a little bit before that, so.
I have to agree with Commissioner Everett. I don't understand why we did this. I mean, I know what you're saying. The attorney said we needed this evaluation done. But
I
to
didn't
not.
say that.
No, she was talking to the other attorney.
The other
okay,
attorney
gotcha.
said that it needed to be done. So we did it. Everybody did it. Everybody took their time. Everybody got it. Everybody handed it back in time, and we got the evaluation, and we've got the results. But I didn't get to read any comments that you all made, and you didn't get to read any of the comments I made on the bottom, on the last page, where there was, a place for notes, some questions, and some narrative, and that kind of thing. And to me, those are the things that we should have been discussing prior to starting the contract negotiation, because I may change my mind about how I feel about a contract based on something y'all have said. And to not even take any of that into account, to me, this just, I might as well just sit down and go on boom, boom, boom instead of reading the questions.
One thing got about it, this is a democracy, and the majority rules is the majority feel that we need to discuss the evaluation prior to moving forward with the contract. I have no problem with that, if that's the desire of the majority. Someone can put that in a motion. This
I
contract.
make a motion, we discuss the evaluation prior to contract negotiations.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Bolden and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett that we suspend our negotiation of the contract till we have an opportunity preferably at our next meeting to discuss the contract, the evaluation of the city manager.
Because the point, Mr.
We'll do
Mayor-
that question.
Oh, okay.
Call for question, Commissioner
I
Everett.
guess my point of concern, and I know people may have the issues of qualms about my position, and as you stated, within a democracy, both sides have a right to their concern. But we met Tuesday, Friday by 12. We were told that we had to have had our evaluation submitted. I think there needs to be some level of discussion about it to help guide the discussion with this contract. It's not trying to set up a lynching, but why do it if we're not going to discuss the evaluation to help us with some of the nuances with our current city manager and our current contract that we have before us. Because if our only concern, I don't think we really want to address the elephant in the room. If our concern is just about time, that can be handled, or just the language of termination or it mirroring what the charter states. It doesn't take doesn't take that much time to discuss that. But I think we should have some discussion about what our evaluation and where do we want to go in the upcoming year, and what we haven't seen or what we would like to see or what have you.
Mayor, point of reference, the things he's referencing, you typically put the benchmarks in your contract. You can, but you typically put them in there. It's not a part of the evaluation. You evaluate that at the end of the year. But to Commissioner Boland's point, HR standards, when you do comments, you can discuss them. But we did the same scoring we did every year. We look at the score, and she based that on a format for assessment of city managers based on ICMA standards, and she gives you a score, and that's where we are. I thought we were getting to a contract. So, but point of reference, we got 4 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me.
This,
I'm sorry. I had a comment or a question or something, whatever you want to call it.
additional question,
Thank you.
Commissioner Bolden.
I just want to say that I think any of us know which one's mine. There's no, even though we signed these, we had to sign them and date them and say, this is mine and I submitted it and these are my answers. I don't have a bit of problem telling anybody that the low score on here is mine, And I debated long and hard and really, I looked at it, I read it a bunch of times, I went back, I looked at it from different points of view. I thought about it, I really, really worked on it. And that's why I really think if you all, and I'm sure y'all did the same thing with your scores, how you came to them. But since there's a huge, if we were all within 10 or 15 points of each other, then I would say, yeah, this really doesn't make that big a deal. But we're not even close to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my reasoning why I believe we need to go over this evaluation thoroughly before we start to negotiate a contract, so that I can understand why I scored so low and others scored so high.
Mayor Barry, if I can say something, hold.
That's the exact same person,
Hold.
the exact same questions.
Mayor Barry,
Look.
I know we have a few minutes, but I know I agree with going over the evaluation. But because of my score, Commissioner Everett's score, Mayor Babb's score, Commissioner, that's probably how you view that point. Now, because my point might be 3, yours might be 5, yours might be 4, it doesn't matter. That's just how you review of that point. That's not going to change. So, wait, let me finish, Commissioner Bolden. So what I'm saying is, I don't need to see Commissioner Bolden's, what she think of the Senator. When I did my evaluation, I'm not looking at the person. I'm looking at his job. Okay, did he do that? Say, for example, you got on there for legislation funding. Why would I put a 1 or a 0? Okay, I'm evaluating. We're here for the year. You'll be hearing all of the funds that have come to the city. Okay, so that's a plus. He did that. But the points where I might have put a low score in, that's I would discuss with the city manager. My goal for you is I think you need to pull up on this score. I disagree. I don't like point A, point B of this evaluation. I don't need to see why Mayor Babb scored what Mayor Babb scored. I don't need to see what Commissioner Everett. That's Commissioner Everett's viewpoint of what he sees on his evaluation. So I feel that's Commissioner Everett's point. You go to the city manager. These are my views about you, Mr. City Manager, whomever the city manager may be. I'm not saying whomever sits in that slot. When they give me my evaluation at my job, my other team members is not sitting there at the table listening to why my supervisor scored me what I scored. He told me what my goals are, then I'm working towards those goals. That's not he's not discussing them with my other colleagues. I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair.
This is slightly a little different because the commission as a whole
Is the boss.
Right. I don't have a problem with you doing it, but I don't think that you should be, I don't need to know, okay, Commissioner Bolden said this. If you want to discuss the overall scores of it, I think that's fine.
Right.
Okay.
No additional question. We're going to call for a vote on the motion to table the contract negotiation until we have a discussion of the evaluation, which will be at our next commission meeting. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bolden?
Yes?
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill? Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Mayor Babb?
Yes, motion passed unanimously. We're going to table our contract discussion. We're going to have the evaluation discussion at our next meeting. If we can get to the contract after that, we're going to proceed at our next meeting with that. Just want to advise the city manager, we need a complete copy of the entire evaluation for this commission to review.
Yes, sir.
It's 9.
Is
Can I
that
have
not what we
a?
have, or is it different from what we had, what they said now? Is it a different form what they said?
I think no, it's the same form. What we got, I believe, was just the rating.
Oh, you want the whole
Yes, you
sheet?
want everybody's evaluation. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
I'm gonna say adjourn the meeting. Thank you. You get a second?
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Bolden, properly second by Commissioner Everett for the adjournment of the meeting. Call for question, hearing none. Ready for a roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bolden?
Yes?
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill? Vice Mayor
Yes,
Mervin?
yes.
Mayor Babb?
Yes, meeting adjourned. Thank you.